Hey there Internet, regular old dude here, ready to dive into another song. Today we're going to do a song by Agalloch. The song is titled Limbs and it's off the August 2006 album Ashes Against the Grain. Sorry for the delay between this video and my last video, but I'm going to a new format in a way. I went and purchased myself a decent set of headphones, and I'm going to try something in post-production a little bit different. I'm going to actually listen to the song on the headphones and then drop the track in post-production. So if you have a good set of headphones or any headphones, you'll be able to hear a more dynamic range in the music and not just what was coming out of my external speaker that was being picked up by the camera. So hopefully you'll be able to hear what I'm hearing, and it'll make a little more sense than me just telling you about it. I'll be able to actually point things out and have them actually on the video. You'll be able to hear them in a much better fashion than I had with my external speaker. Agalloch is described as an American heavy metal band from Portland, Oregon on the Wikipedia page. They also get described in many other genres on that page, anything from black metal to doom metal to folk metal and even post metal. I can kind of tell what most of those are, like black, doom, folk, but I don't exactly know what post metal is, so I'll have to look that one up. As always, I'll listen to the song here with you for the first time, and then I'll listen to it 5 more times and then come back and break the song down, the lyrics, and go over the interesting parts that I hear. This song is an almost 10-minute song, so we'll listen to it all the first time. Maybe when I come back after listening to it 5 more times, I may not play the whole thing through and just highlight the portions that I find meaningful and interesting. Also, anything with lyrics, I'll go over that. I'll definitely replay those sections. But with a 10-minute song, playing it through the first time, you may not want to hear me play the whole song again. But as always, I'll have links to it in the description below so you can listen to it in its entirety also. Let's get into it. Agalloch with Limbs. Very atmospheric. Not exactly sure what instrument that is. Maybe it's a guitar, maybe it's something else, but definitely creating a sense of atmosphere here. And the tone itself comes across as kind of sad, melancholy, like it's the ending of something more than the beginning, if you know what I mean. Very driving beat, along with the guitar, very pounding, pulsing, and you can still hear those opening melancholy notes in the background. So far, I'm really digging it. We still have that driving rhythm, and you can hear different changes with a little bit of drum fill in there. Also, With the headphones on, now that I have a decent set, I can actually hear the guitar tone really well, much better than I could with the external speaker. And I can hear the little changes in notes, where on the external speaker it would just sound like a steady rhythm. Here I can actually hear them going up and down the scale, producing different notes, and it sounds so much better. So if you have headphones, I suggest that you put them on, definitely for this song, because I'm looking at the list of lyrics here, and there's just a couple of verses in a 10-minute song, so there is a lot of instrumental. I'm imagining there's a lot of instrumental, so the music itself is very important. So if you have the time and you have the set, go ahead and put those headphones on. And we had that driving beat, that driving riff continue, and you could hear just a little bit of change in the drums, and all of a sudden we got that rapid bass drum just dun, 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 just really hammering it, and then we had the music fade out, and then we can hear this acoustic guitar, I'm guessing it's acoustic guitar, come in. And I'm going to back it up a little bit so we can hear that fade out with the acoustic coming in. Alright, we had the acoustic come in there, and we still had that ringing distortion in the background, but it faded away into the background really nice and let the acoustic come forward. And then we have this either like a reverb or an echo effect on the guitar coming into this part of the song, but that acoustic tone, the tone of the guitar, is really, the notes are very deliberate and morose. It sounds very sad and foreboding. For lack of a better word, at least off the top of my head, those are the things that first come to mind. That's how it's making me feel. But I'm going to back it up a little bit so we can hear the first introduction of this echo tone coming in here. Definitely feels like we're building to something. The that echo effect, as it came in, the distortion we heard from the first part of the song kind of faded away completely, and we just had that clean acoustic sound with that echo in the background. Now we have the drums coming in, and they seem to be picking up pace ever so slightly, like almost like a heartbeat, the way it's thump 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 thump, the way it's coming in there. So definitely feels like something is coming. Okay, I'm going to back it up some, but it's kind of like they're breaking things down here. It's like the song is being taken over by a new rhythm, a new tone. It's coming across like a different kind of feeling in that original opening riff, and those echo effects in the beginning, and that pounding, driving guitar riff and beat. Now we're getting more of a back and forth between the instruments. But I want to back it up a little bit because I want to hear some more of that again. We got into our first bit of lyrics here. The texture of the soul is a liquid. Are they saying that your soul is in your blood, maybe? That casts a vermilion flood. All right. Well, vermilion would lead me to believe that they're talking about blood also. All right. Let's see what we got coming up after that. Back that up a little bit because it looks like we had another section of lyrics coming in right when I clicked stop there. From a wound carved as an oath, it fills the riverbank, a sanguine fog. From a wound carved as an oath, so maybe a promise or maybe a literal oath that somebody made. It fills the riverbank, a sanguine fog. I think sanguine means kind of like is it pale or like a pallid? Or is that when you're filled with blood? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll definitely look it up when I dive into it. So let's back it up a little bit because we got another group of lyrics coming up. The riverbank is a wet fog. These arms were meant to be lost. Very little break between the verses in the song, so I'm going to have to back it up a little bit again, but we went through several lines there. These arms were meant to be lost. Do they mean arms as in like limbs? The song is titled Limbs. Or do they mean arms like weapons? Or arms as a metaphor for the limbs of a tree maybe? Hacked, severed, and forgotten. So hacked, maybe not literal hacked, but beaten up, destroyed, ripped away, as in severed, and forgotten, just no one cares anymore maybe. Or it could literally mean trees. So not quite sure. That might play into the folk metal aspect, because these lyrics are definitely coming across as a metaphor or mythological in meaning. Something I'm going to have to really dive into when I listen to the song several more times. And the next we had, the texture of time is a whisper that echoes across the flood. Not exactly sure what to take out of that yet, so I'll have to spend more time with that one to get some more meaning out of it. So let's back it up a little bit so we can come into the beginning of this next group of lyrics. Okay, maybe it literally does have something to do with trees, unless they're using "It's Him resonates from tree to tree" as a metaphor or something symbolic. It's Him resonates from tree to tree. Through every sullen bough, it sings. And I'm showing my ignorance here. I know a bough, B-O-U-G-H, is something to do with a tree. I can't remember if it's like the bend or like the crook of the tree that the bough refers to. So through every sullen bough, it sings. Well, sullen definitely means sad or depressed, I believe. So going to be a lot of dictionary.com here so I can figure out exactly where they're coming from, try and figure it out. And then we have, these boughs were said to be lost. And that kind of echoes the first verse where we had, these arms were meant to be lost. Now we have, these boughs were said to be lost, torn, unearthed, and broken. Just on my first listen and first reading, I'm not quite pulling a meaning out that I can express to you, so I'm going to have to really dive into this one. All right, let's get back in it. Well, that ended abruptly, and we went right back into an acoustic part. So I'll back that up a little bit again. The vocal style and the tone of the music and the lyrics themselves are definitely speaking towards a loss of some kind. So let me back that up so we can catch that abrupt end and into the acoustic part. And we still have a little bit to go as far as lyrics. And we have about 2.5 minutes left in the song. believe that's our last bit of lyrics here, unless something repeats. It's not listed on the lyrics here, but we had earth to flesh, flesh to wood. Cast these limbs into the water. Flesh to wood, wood to stone. Cast this stone into the water. Not hitting me immediately as to what this means. Just feels like metaphor to me. When I come back after listening to it and researching a little bit, I hope to have better answers for you than I don't know. Alright, we have just a little over a minute left. We'll go ahead and let it play the rest of the way out. Alright, that was Limbs from Agalloch. I will be spending the next hour with Agalloch and Limbs, so I can listen to it 5 more times and come back with something more insightful, because these lyrics are definitely elusive this time. Definitely having a hard time figuring out exactly what they're talking about. And maybe I'll do a little bit more research into the band and their background and what they write songs about, try and draw a little more out of what I've listened to and what they have written here as far as lyrics to go along with this large piece of music. Alright, I'm going to go get it and I'll see you on the other side. Alright, I'm back from listening to this song 5 more times, and I definitely caught some things that I didn't catch on that initial listen through. Also, before we go forward, I looked up more information on the band, and with my handy notepad here, they write a lot of songs about the beauty of nature, winter, the feeling of melancholy, and they make a lot of allusions to ancestral paganism. Again, I got that off the internet, so might be true. But it would make sense now that I went into the lyrics and I was trying to pull more out of it than there was there, really, because they are pretty straightforward, because they are talking about nature, it appears. So that would make sense. But let's start with the beginning of the song. Let's play the intro here and play about 25-30 seconds of it. And to me, the intro gives me a feeling of nature, actually. It almost sounds like, I don't know if whale calls is the right thing, but it definitely sounds like animal calls of some kind, the way the instruments are played with those long drawn out tones. Tell me what you think. That's what I'm getting, that sense of nature or animal calls almost from that. If not that, maybe gives you that feeling of nature itself, just like the atmosphere in the air. Things are kind of charged, innocent at the same time, not evil, because nature doesn't care. It just does what it needs to do to go through about its process. And it gives me that sense, that feeling with those notes here at the beginning. And we'll let it keep playing now so we can get that initial intro of the drums and the guitar. And there's a few things I'm going to go over here and point out in the music along the way that really appealed to me, that I really liked. But from the get-go, the drums and the guitar are building a foundation for the song that the song will build on throughout the course of the almost 10 minutes. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit and listen for, we have that driving guitar riff right now, but you're going to hear a little bit of change and a little bit of nuance in the background. The drums will continue to lay down the foundation for the song, but the guitar is going to change a little bit, and you're going to get like little mini riffs in here. So I'll press play, and just a few seconds after we start the music back up, you'll hear those changes, and I'll let it run for a little while so you can hear a couple of them. Hopefully you could hear that in the background, those little like riffs on top of that driving beat. And in a few seconds we're going to hear the tone in the guitar change. It's not like in your face, but I mean it's subtle, but you're going to hear the guitar tone change here in about 5 seconds, and then about 10 seconds after that, listen for, what was it, 10? I'm sorry, about 20 seconds after that, you'll hear like a harmony guitar come in with it to really build. And that's one of the things, we had the foundation riff, we had those little mini riffs, we're going to see that tonal change, and then we're going to hear that harmony come in and join it here. Hopefully you're able to pick out what I'm hearing, and with the way they're building on the beginning, the opening tones, and then we have the drums and guitar, so you can hear the music building as we get closer and closer to the lyrics. Actually, we're going to get into that acoustic part here in just a few seconds. I'll skip ahead a little bit so we can get into that. When we go into the acoustic part here, pay attention to that ringing riff left over from the original riff before we got into the acoustic in the background, and then about 25 to 30 seconds into the acoustic riff, that ringing tone from the original riff disappears, and then we get the echo effect in joining the guitar. Disappears. Besides laying the foundation, the drums through most of the song. The drums also usher in change, what's going to change in the song. So coming up soon you'll hear the drums, they'll come back in, and that's a signal that what we have been listening to is about to change again. We'll hear the drums come back in right after the acoustic guitar actually picks its pace up. You can definitely hear that we're building towards something, and we're going to have the electric guitar come back forward again and be the main tone of the song here. Coming up in about 5 or 6 seconds, I really like how the riff kind of breaks itself down, deconstructs itself here. So listen for that. And it's right before we get into the lyrics here. All right, we're about to get into the lyrics. And I want you to really pay attention to the way that the drums and guitar change depending on which section of the lyrics we're in. We'll get these first 4 lines, and then when we get into the part where these arms were meant to be lost, heck, severed and forgotten, you can hear how the structure of the guitar and the drum playing changes. It's very, very interesting. I hope you're able to hear it there. We had that group of lyrics, and we'll go over them here in just a minute, but when we got into that other part with these arms were meant to be lost, then we had the drum rolls and the fills and the way that the guitar changed. So I really, really like that touch there, the way they did that. So let's go over the lyrics here. The texture of the soul is a liquid that casts a vermilion flood. So in my mind, they're speaking of blood. And then we have, from a wound carved as an oath, it fills the river with a sanguine fog. And I looked sanguine up, and it is just something that's a reddish color. So from a wound carved as an oath, it fills a river with a reddish colored or sanguine fog. So to me, these verses speak to almost like a pact with nature. Our soul is blood. The wound that we carved as an oath, and then our blood spilling out and becomes part of the earth. So we have this symbiotic relationship with it. And then we have these arms were meant to be lost, hacked, severed, and forgotten. By saying these arms were meant to be lost, I believe they're referring to like the limbs of the trees themselves. Hacked, severed, and forgotten. We harvest them, we take them apart, we use them for our needs, and we just forget that they're such an integral part of our lives. And there's a lot there, but we just kind of take it all for granted. We're going to get into the second verse here and watch how the guitar tone and drums revert back to that original feel before we get into the second part of this second verse where it says these bowels were said to be lost, torn, unearthed, and broken. We'll get back into that change with the drums and the guitar. So we'll get through these group of lyrics and you'll notice the tone shift back to what it was when we started with the texture of the soul line. Now we're going to get to the texture of time, and then we'll break it down into the vowels and everything will change up again. We have our next group of lyrics. The texture of time is a whisper that echoes across the flood. So we're kind of referring back to the first verse because we were talking about a flood from the liquid of the soul that casts that vermilion flood. And we had the riverbank with the sanguine fog. Now we're talking about the texture of time is a whisper. To me, that means we can hear the echoes of the past, but it's really quiet to us. We're not really paying attention. That echoes across the flood. Normally a flood is a destructive force, and in the first verse we have a vermilion flood, blood. Maybe the earth itself is bleeding because we're not taking care of it, and we're not paying attention to the mistakes we made in the past. So that whisper is echoing across this destructive force. Its hymn resonates from tree to tree. By its is referring to the whisper of time and the echoes of the past. Through every sullen bough it sings. So sullen is sad, feeling depressed, and bough, I was wrong, B-O-U-G-H, is just basically the branch of the tree. Most often it's referring to like the large main branches of a tree. So this whisper of the past is echoing through the trees, resonating all throughout nature, but yet here we are doomed to repeat the mistakes we've made in the past when it comes to the way we treat the earth and nature itself. These boughs were said to be lost, torn, unearthed, and broken. Maybe by boughs they don't directly mean the branches of a tree, but maybe the branches of time, because they're talking previously about the texture of time as a whisper. So maybe these branches of the past were said to be lost, torn, unearthed, and broken. Like we have the lessons of the past there for us. We thought that we had lost it or forgotten it, but it's there, but we just kind of tear it apart, cast it aside, because as humans we're just doomed to repeat our mistakes. Again, I don't know if that's exactly what these lyrics mean, but as I'm reading through it, when I'm listening to the music and the way the music makes me feel, that's just kind of what I'm getting from it. So again, that's something I often say that I really like about music is you can interpret it many different ways, and it may mean something completely different to somebody else, which is a very awesome feeling that as an artist you can connect with people in a whole bunch of different ways, even ways that you didn't even think of when you were creating the song or your art. I'm going to start it back up here, and you can hear that we have like these soaring riffs right now, and that's leading up to that abrupt cut, which is signaled by the drums right before it happens. As the drums often do in this song, when you hear the drums either picking up pace or really changing a lot, they're kind of signaling a shift in the song. And then when it cuts out, we have that brief silence. We go into another nice clean acoustic part, and then about 30 seconds into that we get the electric guitar back in. We're about to get into our last group of lyrics here, and pay attention to the guitar changing again. And I believe what I'm hearing is tremolo picking during this group of lyrics, which is something that didn't happen in the other parts of the song where lyrics were at. And right when the lyrics and that tremolo picking or that tremolo guitar sound starts, we get the drums back in at the same time also. And another thing to pay attention to is the way the drums act during this final chorus here. Whenever the vocalist says earth to flesh, you'll hear that really nice drum fill in there, the way they change it up. And then flesh to wood, cast these limbs into the water. For the rest of that line, the drums are less diverse, less frantic, and more of building a base for that lyric. But then in the second part of the chorus, when he says flesh to wood, we get that really interesting fill again, and then wood to stone, cast this stone into the water, we'll get more of a foundation beat and riff from the guitar. I think I misspoke there. I think I said when the lyrics start, the drums come back in. What I meant was the drums were already there, but we get that really nice change and a really interesting drum pattern. That fill at the beginning of the earth to flesh line and at the beginning of the flesh to wood, and then we get into the nice steady foundation beat for the rest of the line. So these lyrics themselves: earth to flesh, flesh to wood, cast these limbs into the water. I was really struggling with trying to figure out what the meaning is here, and seeing that some of their lyrical and song inspiration comes from nature and traditional paganism and things like that. This may be part of a verse or a ritual of some kind. I mean, earth to flesh, of course we come from the earth in the aspect of what we are made of. We don't just appear out of air. We are elements, and those elements come from the earth itself. So earth to flesh makes sense there. And then flesh to wood, for me that would mean once we die and are buried, what we are goes back into the ground and becomes part of the trees and the plants that make up nature itself. And then cast these limbs into the water. Flesh to wood, which is how we end right there. We want earth to flesh, flesh to wood. So we can bring it back to flesh to wood, wood to stone. Over time, wood can actually petrify and turn to stone, and stone is considered strong, a very strong building material, strong foundation material. And then cast this stone into the water. I believe by casting the limbs and casting the stones into the water, nothing can resist being broken down by water. As long as you have enough time, water will break anything down. It can carve canyons, it can cut rock, it can do anything. So we get all these elements. We come from the earth, we go back to the earth, the wood can turn into stone, but the water will always break everything back down into its elements, and we can start the cycle all over again. And then the song continues with that those foundation riff like we had at the beginning of the song, and then echoes and trails off. This was definitely one of the harder songs for me to do, not only breaking down the lyrics and trying to figure out exactly what they meant to me, but having a very long song, having to pick out parts, and there are lots of really good parts, and I probably, even though I listened to it several times, missed some things, but they have a lot of really nice changes in tone. Like I said, the guitar lays down the drums lay down that foundation for everything throughout the song, and the drums signal a change in tone. The drums really help punctuate some of the lyrics. Like I said, when the earth to flesh and flesh to wood parts of that chorus at the end, you can really hear how the drums punctuate the beginning of that lyric and then lay the foundation for the rest of the line, and then they do it again, and it really, those nice little effects, even like at the beginning of the song when I pointed out those little riffs in the background laid underneath that foundation riff that we had, was a bunch of really nice changes there, lots of guitar tones that change with the lyrics and kind of morph with the song. The silence breaking into the acoustic parts, that first acoustic part with the electric guitar ringing in the background slowly fading with that echo coming into it. I mean, there's a bunch of really nice parts that I really enjoyed in the song, and it does you justice by listening to this with a decent set of headphones on, because there's a whole lot going on. And the first listen through, I missed a lot of stuff, and each time I found something different. Like, I didn't notice that from the drums this time. I didn't notice that from the guitars, or the way they played off of each other, or the effective use of silence, or the ringing of the notes. And it's just a lot going on, and it's really, really intricate and complex. This is definitely the kind of music that you want to sit and listen to. And what I mean by that is, you're not just going to have it on in the background. You're not just going to have it on, like when you're lifting weights at the gym or something like that to really pump you up. But this is a mood setter. It is filled with emotion and movement that's important to really listen to, and definitely different than anything else I've done so far on the channel. But I'm going to do a shorter song or two before I go into Godflesh, which I have as a request, the request of Monotremata, if I'm saying that correctly, is also a 9+ minute song. So they're draining in a good way, because I really have to spend a lot of time listening to it. Even though it's 10 minutes long and you multiply that by 5, that's 50 minutes. I caught myself like hearing something and rewinding it 10 or 15 seconds, so that 10-minute runtime turned into 15 minutes or 20 minutes each time I did it. So it ended up taking me a couple of hours of really listening to it and enjoying the structure of the song and what they put together with this particular piece of music. So I'm going to give myself a little break and do a couple of shorter songs, 5 minutes or less, before I dive into Godflesh. I am getting to it, but I don't want to do 2 long songs like that back to back because it takes quite a toll on you as far as mentally and emotionally. But like I said, that's not a complaint. It's just something I don't want to do back to back. Thank you for watching. I look forward to getting into more music. Keep those suggestions coming. I'm almost out of the suggestions that you've given me. I would like to visit as many bands as possible, not to say that I won't go back to a band that I've done already, but here in the beginning of the channel I'd like to get a nice good wide selection of different bands. But some of these that I've done that you have suggested, oh, you really need to listen to this song or you need to listen to that one from this artist that you've already done one on, I will come back around and do multiple songs from the same artist. I'm sorry, you can hear my voice is kind of going on me too. Until next time, make sure you get outside that box, get outside your comfort zone, tell other people to do the same thing too, and listen to some new shit. See you next time.